Hello again to another Aga Calorias. And on the 7th February 1974, Mel Brooks' Western spoof film Blazing Saddles, starring Cleavon Little and Gene Wilder, premieres at the Pickwick Drive-In in Burbank, California, and patrons watched from horseback rather than cars. So we're going to watch 10 things you didn't know about Blazing Saddles from Minty Comedic Arts. And I've seen the movie years ago. I haven't seen it for a really long time, and I remember that I did probably laugh a lot. That is Mel Brooks comedy, so it's hard not to laugh. Let's see what I didn't know about Blazing Saddles. So there's a disclaimer.
With a stroke of comedy genius and flatulence, Blazing Saddles blasted its way onto the big screen in 1974. Directed by Mel Brooks, Blazing Saddles is a comical take on the Western genre, as well as satirizing intolerance and hatred and downright poking fun at it. Where we follow the new sheriff in the town of
have to
Rockridge,
watch it again because I really don't remember much from that.
African-American called Bart, played by Cleavon Little, who has to overcome the town's prejudice and hostility, as well as taking on thugs who are out to destroy the town in order to build a railway. Sheriff Bart teams up with a drunken gunslinger called the Waco Kid, played by Gene Wilder, where they must save the town and its residents, with all kinds of crazy shenanigans along the way, in this comedy classic which fiercely kicks intolerance and prejudice in the junk. So, buckle up, or should I say saddle up, as we go to the funny side of the Wild West and look into 10 things that you didn't know about Blazing Saddles. A movie that pokes fun at racism and exposes it for the ridiculousness that it is, while also providing plenty of farts. So, let's check it out. Number 10. The genesis of Blazing Saddles. Blazing Saddles was the brainchild of screenwriter, director, and novelist Andrew Bergman, who also wrote fellow comedy classic Fletch. He conceived the idea in 1971. His first draft was called Tex X, which was a reference to Malcolm X. He took his draft to Warner Brothers, who liked the script, and filmmaker and actor Alan Arkin was hired as director, and James Earl Jones was cast as the movie's lead of Sheriff Bart.
Really?
Bergman would go on to add that for whatever reason, that early production phase of the movie's development just collapsed. The script found its way to funny man Mel Brooks, whom had previously directed the comedy hit The Producers, and he saw a lot of potential in the Blazing Saddles project. He felt that it was an old western with an early 1970s outlook and dialogue, which he found to be quite funny, so he purchased the rights to the script to get to work on his own version of what the movie would become. Number 9. Blazing Saddles briefly became a Richard Pryor project.
Really?
Brooks hired a team of writers to do rewrites to the Bergman script, which actually included Bergman himself. Then Richard Pryor got involved, who also helped with the rewrites of the script, with the intention that he was to star as the movie's main lead, Sheriff Bart. In fact, a lot of the jokes and input that Pryor added still made it into the final film. At that time, Pryor was becoming a huge star thanks to his stand-up comedy. However, Warner Brothers were having cold feet about Pryor's involvement, as back then he supposedly had a reputation for being unreliable. Brooks fought for Pryor and tried to convince Warner Brothers to go with the legendary comedian, but regardless, Pryor left the project after doing several contributions to the script. So with Richard Pryor out of the production, Mel Brooks had to find a replacement for the sheriff character, as well as having to cast the secondary lead, the Waco Kid. Number 8. Casting possibilities.
8 casting possibilities. Oh, 8 casting.
After the departure of Pryor, next in line for the part was comedian Flip Wilson, but that didn't work out. So the part was cast with actor Cleavon Little, who already had several movies to his name, as well as starring in the TV series Temperatures Rising. Although Little wasn't a comedian per se like Pryor was, he still has great comedic timing, charm, and charisma, and shines throughout Blazing Saddles perfectly.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
As for the Waco Kid, Brooks originally saw the part to be played by a much older actor, and actor-dancer Dan Daly was offered the part. But shortly before filming, he got cold feet, feeling that he couldn't say the words that the script required him to say. Then actor Gid Young was approached, but he also turned the part down.
But despite this, Brooks was determined to find an old, leathery-faced actor to play the Waco Kid. However, his attentions then turned to an actor who was much younger.
Number 7. Another Mel Brooks film led to the casting of the Waco Kid. At the same time of working on Blazing Saddles, Brooks was also directing fellow comedy spoof Young Frankenstein, which incidentally came out the same year as Blazing Saddles. Young Frankenstein starred actor Gene Wilder, who already previously worked with Brooks on The Producers. While working on Young Frankenstein, Brooks showed Wilder the script of what would become Blazing Saddles, and Wilder was instantly drawn to the script, as he said it, quote, "smashed racism in the face, and its nose is bleeding, but they are doing it while they laugh," which he added was one of the most brilliant things about the movie. Wilder really wanted the part of the Waco Kid, but Brooks was hesitant that he originally saw the character as a much older dude, but thankfully Wilder convinced him. And so not only does Wilder give a funny, memorable performance as the Waco Kid, but also has great comedic timing and chemistry with his co-star Cleveland Little.
Remember that these are just simple farmers. These are people of the land, the common clay of the New West. You know, morons.
Number 6. A Trip to the Shower helped create the title. So as mentioned, Blazing Saddles' original title was Tex X, but it was decided to drop that title as it was feared that people might mistake it for an adult X-rated movie.
Oh, well,
Then the movie got the title of Black
was a
Bart,
big thing
which
there
was also
back
the
too,
name
isn't
of a
it?
real American 19th
Black
century
Bart, yeah.
outlaw, but I guess that just didn't stick. And then the
Nah.
movie got the title Purple Sage. But that too was rejected.
Why?
It seems that the production just couldn't come up with the right title for this Western spoof, till Mel Brooks came up with the title Blazing Saddles from the most unlikeliest of places, the shower. Yep, he got that sheer stroke of comedy inspiration from a simple visit to the shower.
There you go.
I like to think that Mel Brooks was in the shower and the water suddenly got either really hot or really cold, and his reaction was like, "Oh, Blazing Saddles! Oh, wait, yeah, that'll do."
Cool, maybe.
Ah, that's just my interpretation.
Number 5. Blazing Saddles has farts. Lots of farts. When speaking of Blazing Saddles, Mel Brooks said that it broke grounds and it also broke wind. Well, he was being literal when he said that, thanks to the famous scene where we see a camp of thugs eating beans around a campfire, where they
beans.
continuously break
Well, the
gas,
beans
creating
always
one of
bring
the
the
funniest
farts,
and
isn't
most
it?
memorable moments in the movie. The gas-breaking iconic scene was Brooks' idea, as he felt that in westerns you always see cowboys eating beans, but you never see them fart. And with all the beans we see these cowboys eating, wouldn't it be logical for their bottoms to start singing the spicy opera? And so hence this scene was written for that very reason. However, it was a bit of a gamble, as the sound of wind passing had never been heard in movies before. And to
Really?
dose up the fart intensity, Brooks had the fart sound effects turned up really loud, so the fart noises couldn't be drowned out by the audience laughter when it was shown in theatres. However, for its time, the campfire gas may have been a little too edgy, as when it was shown on TV, the fart sound effects were removed, as not to cause
Really?
offence.
Oh.
Whereas pointed out, the scene is left with what looks like campfire buddies doing some weird bopping up and down choreographed dance while eating their beans. Yeah, without the farting, it looks weird.
I think these days we take toilet humour for granted, as it's everywhere, but the soothing sound of flatulence first blew its way onto the big screen in Blazing Saddles.
Number 4,
That's
John
something
Wayne was offered a
definitely
role in
something
Blazing
new for me.
Saddles. Without a doubt, John Wayne is the quintessential movie cowboy. A screen legend known for his many acting performances in westerns, where he had been playing cowboys from the 30s till the 70s. One day while visiting Warner Brothers, Mel Brooks handed Wayne the script to Blazing Saddles and asked him if he would be up for starring in the movie, which actually would have been groundbreaking when you think about it, to see a well-established Western actor starring in this outrageous comedy spoof. However, Wayne was shocked that a script for a Western could feature lines like "blow it out your ass."
Oh, blow it out your ass, Howard.
However, Wayne loved the script and found it very funny, but insisted to Brooks that he could not star in Blazing Saddles. No doubt, probably out of fear that it will tarnish his reputation as a serious cowboy actor.
However, John Wayne insisted that when Blazing Saddles was made, he will be the first person to go and see it.
Number 3. The singer of the main theme didn't know that Blazing Saddles was a spoof.
I am tired.
And of course, apart from being an outrageous satirical comedy, Blazing Saddles is also something of a musical, featuring several musical numbers, 3 of which were written by Mel Brooks himself. The production was looking for the right singer to sing the lyrics for the Blazing Saddles title song, and an ad was put out in trade papers asking for singers who sounded like Frankie Lane, who was a singer-songwriter who sung several songs for Western movies. Lane himself saw the ad, and to the delight of the production, he was like, "Yeah, you want a song with someone who sounds like me? Well, why don't I sing the song? Simples." However, Lane had no idea while recording the song, the movie he was recording the song for was a Western spoof. The comical whip-crack sound effects were added to the song after it had been recorded. So there was nothing really to give it away that this was done for laughs. So he sung it seriously and put so much passion into it, no one in the production had the heart to tell him that it wasn't a serious movie. However, the passion and seriousness of the singing actually adds to the comedic value of the song, considering the nature of the movie. We can only hope that once Lane saw Blazing Saddles that he at least saw the funny side of it. Number 2.
I really have to watch
Blazing
it again.
Saddles nearly wasn't released.
Too much farting?
Considering that Blazing Saddles would go on to be considered one of the greatest comedies of all time, it's impossible to imagine that at one stage the studio didn't want to release the movie. Well, as insane as that sounds, that very nearly happened, as when Blazing Saddles was screen tested to studio executives, they didn't see the funny side of it to say the least. Supposedly during the
How
infamous
could they
screening
not
there
see
was
that?
hardly any laughs at all. And there were even talks happening among the executives to cut their losses and scrap Blazing Saddles entirely, like as in wipe it out of existence like it never happened. However, thankfully it was decided to release the movie, but it was on trial. The plan was to give Blazing Saddles a limited test release in New York, Chicago, and LA, and to see how it will perform, and depending on how that goes, it may or may not have a proper mainstream release. However, thankfully Blazing Saddles was insanely popular, farts and all, and the rest is history.
It really is difficult to comprehend that executives had such little faith in Blazing Saddles, they didn't want to release it. Like, who pissed in their sandwiches that day and put them in such a grumpy mood?
Who?
And before we get to number
Wonder.
1, here is a bonus fact. The failed TV series.
Oh.
After the success of Blazing Saddles, it was decided to keep the Western LOLs alive and to make a TV series spin-off called Black Bart, which was incidentally one of the original proposed titles for the movie. A similar thing would happen several years later when the movie Animal House got its own TV spin-off called Delta House. However, unlike that situation, the Blazing Saddles TV show didn't make it past its TV pilot. The pilot is actually more faithful to the original script of Blazing Saddles, before Mel Brooks and the other team of writers did rewrites. So the Black
it's not as
Bart
funny then, huh?
pilot, if anything, is kind of like an insight into what Blazing Saddles could have been. The Black Bart pilot was shown on CBS in 1975, and the intended series to follow was then scrapped. So, why didn't it work? Well, my theory is the recasts. Neither Cleveland Little or Gene Wilder returned. Instead, for the pilot, actor Louis Gossett Jr. was cast as Bart. Although
That's
Gossett Jr.
him!
is a legendary actor in his own right, it's still distracting seeing well-known and well-loved characters from movies get recast for their TV show
I didn't
counterparts,
recognize him.
as
He's
often
so
is
young.
the case with TV shows based on movies. Also, the outrageous edge that the Blazing Saddles movie had would have had to have been toned down for a TV audience, and so viewers would have gotten a much more watered-down version of Blazing Saddles.
And the main appeal of Blazing Saddles is that it isn't watered down in the slightest. It hits you in the face with everything it's got and has no apologies for doing so.
Number 1, Blazing Saddles, Blazing Success. Blazing Saddles was released in February 1974 and was financially successful, making nearly $120 million
Seriously, I have to watch it
on a
again.
$2.6 million budget. The critical reception was fairly positive, with some criticisms. It was widely felt that the movie was hilarious in a juvenile gag kind of way. Some
Oh,
critics
yes.
felt that it was tasteless and vulgar, with stale jokes, but overall it at least managed to get some laughs from most critics. Blazing Saddles got 3 Academy Award nominations and won the Writers Guild of America Award for Best Comedy Written and Directed for the Screen. Blazing Saddles' popularity would go on to grow more in time, with it being considered one of the greatest comedy movies of all time. In the year 2000, it was ranked at number 6 in the American Films and Institution list of 100 funniest movies of all time. And in 2006, Blazing Saddles was considered culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the
Why
Library
do
of
I know
Congress.
that guy here?
So
Like,
what is
obviously
it about
from the movie,
Blazing
but kinda like
Saddles?
from something
How did
else.
this otherwise small comedy movie go such a long way? Well, 2 reasons in my opinion. 1, it is generally a funny movie. You watch Blazing Saddles, and the audience is handed out gag after gag after gag as if they were sweets. And 2, because it does take a serious and ugly side of nature, that being intolerance and prejudice, and turn it on its head, and makes fun of it. And through the gift of Blazing Saddles, the laughter it gives us shows just how ridiculous racism is, proving that sometimes laughter is the best medicine.
Blazing Saddles is a comedy masterpiece with a strong and powerful message. A movie through the power of laughter calls out the evils of intolerance. Now, the movie has some very uncomfortable words and terminology used in it, but it's not telling us the viewer that these words and terminologies are okay to use, but rather to the effect of pointing out the stupidity of the worldview of those who are using such words. So I guess you could say that Blazing Saddles defeats evil through the power of comedy. And well, what's not to love about that? Anyway, I'm Minty, and through laughter we can overcome many flaws in human nature.
It was
See
very
ya.
good. See ya. Okay, so like I said, I've seen the movie but years and years ago, so I don't remember much. I really have to watch it again. It's Mel Brooks movie, so it's obviously really funny. When did you watch Blazing Saddles the last time? Do you remember? Because I don't remember. Anyway, those all listed as information and stuff like that, that was very good. All those, yeah, a lot of things that I didn't know, obviously. Now I know. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.